You know, it is a tough job these days to be a guy that puts a holster on and a safety vest and a badge, no matter where you are. But in Chicago, I think you have to multiply that. There's been a story going around. Not a story. It's in the news. It is what it is. The Chicago Teachers Union has been granted 12 weeks off of paid family leave.
Right.
So John Catanzara, the union boss for the CPD, says, hey, what about my guys over here? What about us? And he's been turned down, and now he's vowing to go to court to force the hand of Mayor Brandon Johnson after they rejected the union's demand for the same 12 weeks paid off. I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's a hard job to do. I believe in families being able to take time with families. I'm good with that. John, welcome to WLS. Good morning.
Good morning, Ray. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Hey, where do you think this got off track? I mean, first of all, there's a lot of things that we can, uncover here and talk about. One is, we know that there's a depletion of the men and women on the Chicago police force. We know that men and women are being forced to work extraneous hours. But why do you suppose they would do something like this when they gave it to the teachers union, but they didn't give it to you? And where do you go from here?
Well, I mean, it started under Mayor Lightfoot, to be quite honest with you, and it seems Mayor Johnson just decided to cater to his friends in the teachers union and is doing everything. This is just one example of not doing right by the men and women of this police department because he doesn't want to make enemies or hurt any feelings in the teachers union. There's no other way to describe it.
Do you think it? I mean, and this would be so blaringly obvious that if this was some type of repercussion because of the endorsement for Paul Vallis from the Chicago Police Union, do you think that had anything to do with it?
I'm sure it all plays into the fact, and like I said, this all goes back to me and to us, to the teachers union, and the fact he is cognizant of not making them an enemy because they would not be happy if he gave in to us also. And it's not a matter of giving in. Again, his words, not mine. This was the right thing to do for the teachers. Well, why isn't it the right thing to do for the police, who at graduation ceremonies tries to convince these new minted officers that he will have their back? He is a liar. He hasn't done anything to even prove that in any way, shape, or form. He is not a labor mayor in any way, shape, or form. He has proven that at least 3 times since he's been in office. So I don't know what they think they're going to do when this convention gets here in 15 months, 13 months. But we're certainly going to make a point that this is not the party of labor that our fathers and mothers knew.
What is what are the numbers of the Chicago Police Department right now? How low are these numbers that these men and women, the rank and file, that hardly get any time off? How far has it been depleted?
I mean, we're well somewhere between 15 to 1,700 understaffed.
Oh,
and again, I will remind everybody, the only true essential workers in this city were the police, the fire, and hospital staff during COVID. Not the teachers, not any other union. We have, of those 3, the most difficult job, the most physical job, and literally the only job where you can be thrown in jail for doing your job in good faith.
It really is. It really is amazing. And we could be here for days talking about some of these police-involved shootings. Adam Toledo, just to bring one up, I was privy to be there to watch that when Sergeant or Denahan, I believe is what his name is, took me through that shooting slide by slide and how quick it happened and just how we expect these people to be superhuman, but that's a show for another day. I want to get back to the topic of what do you think you have a chance in a courtroom to be able to get this time off that your officers need?
Well, I think we could clearly show that there has been a bias towards Lodge 7 specifically, and we're working out what that actual legal angle will be. There's some discussion internally, obviously, with different attorneys, labor, general counsel, and others. We're even kind of recruiting outside opinions that deal with parental rights to try and join this argument, because it is absolutely egregious that this mayor gave it to everybody at this point but CPD. And I will tell you, in Fran Spielman's column, their chief of staff, Jason Lee, outright lied. He tries to vilify a benefit, and the benefit of medical for police department. I'll give everybody a super quick lesson here. Back in 1982, when we first got our collective bargaining rights under Jane Byrne, the President, John Deneen, at the time said, at that point, officers had the ability to go sick whenever they needed to. That was a right they wanted to maintain in the first collective bargaining agreement, which is what they did. And in exchange for that, they took less money. That's how negotiations and collective bargaining works. You get something, you give something. They gave up money then to maintain this benefit of medical. Up until about 15 years ago, that was the way it was. 15 years ago, it got cut in half. So you theoretically could have 1 year of medical time for every 2 years. Now, it's not just, I want to be off today, I'm not going to work. If you're sick and you're out more than 3 days, you have to report to the medical section with a doctor's note on why you can't be working. And you have to get a doctor's note to be able to return to work. So this isn't just, I don't feel like coming into work today by any stretch. You break your leg skiing. Those kind of things is what's covered under that medical policy. But again, it's a benefit. They want us now to take 3 months out of that benefit that we have given up other things for and water it down and take that time out of that lot of money, a lot of time. It was never going to happen. We're not giving in on this point. I can't control what other unions did, but again, we're not watering down our benefits. That's not the way the process works, and he should know that if he really is a labor leader. But it's showing that he's not, or he just doesn't give a damn, one or the other.
John Catanzara is our guest. He is the Chicago Police Union boss. Nick Eel in the newsroom.
So, John, just a question on that. And you say it goes back to Lightfoot, and I remember she made an announcement towards the end of her tenure that all city employees were going to get 12 weeks. But obviously you guys weren't included in that. And was that the same argument, is because, well, we want to take that out of the time that they've already got?
That's been the city's position from the get-go. And it was the same position with the PVPA supervisors unions in the police department, Local 2 and the fire department. They made their own side agreements. Whatever they did, they did. I can't control that. But our position has never changed, and it's been that way. The teachers were fighting for the same thing we were fighting for. All of a sudden, he capitulates and give them what they asked for without no conditions whatsoever, but left us out in the wind. Again, apparently our members have no rights when it comes to being parents to their newborn children. Shame on this city, shame on Lightfoot, and shame on Mayor Johnson for continuing it.
John, I have a text question here saying, how many days off does a Chicago police officer get in 1 year?
Again, the easiest way to explain it is you have a benefit of medical time. You get 365 days up to that every 2 years. So it kind of recycles itself every 2 years.
Okay, and before I let you go, and forgive me if this is if I shouldn't ask this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. There are claims that Chicago police officers have had improper sexual relations with asylum seekers at a West Side police station. Can you speak to that?
Well, from the jump, we had pretty strong suspicions. It was an anonymous complaint that was BS. And I could just give you 2 simple caveats on why we know this is true. Number one, there's never been a case report generated for the actual crime that's been implied. That tells me, one, it's suspicious at best. What tells me it's BS is that no officer has been relieved of their police powers, 2 weeks plus now counting? And if that had any iota of truth, COPA and the superintendent would have moved to remove police powers and sent an officer to desk duty somewhere else. None of that has occurred. This was a weakness in the system, a glaring problem, not even a weakness, back in 2021 when they eliminated the sworn affidavit for filing complaints against police officers because they said that was the right thing to do. Well, that means anybody can make a complaint and say, I don't want to leave my name, but this is the complaint, and they have to take it. That's how dumb this was from the beginning, and this just goes to show you how dumb that policy was to begin with.
John, you're in there like a prize fighter, man. Keep it up. This is a radio station that appreciates law and order and the rank and file. Nick, you got one more question?
John, just real quick, how are you guys, how are the members doing? I don't understand how the asylum seekers can be housed at the police stations. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. How are your members doing in dealing with that?
You know, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be quite honest with you. Some, you kind of wander off into politics at this point, and there's certainly plenty that think they shouldn't be in this country, number one, but they don't go out of their way to make them uncomfortable. There's other ones who literally bend over backwards to help these migrants, food, toys for the kids, whatever, and interact with them and try and make them feel as comfortable as possible. But none of them believe that they should be at a police station. I can assure you of that. Yeah. It was never designed for that purpose, and the fact that it's been abused to this level is ridiculous. But again, when you have people who say this is a sanctuary city, we will welcome anybody and everybody, and then people get sent here from places that aren't making that advertisement, and who do you got to blame?
Yeah, it's a sanctuary city right up into the point where people show up. Good right. In theory, and not so good in practice.
How many of these politicians who kept saying, literally, we're a sanctuary city, we welcome everybody? How many of them ever have taken any of these migrants into their own home and housed them?
Yeah. Fences don't work unless they're around the house of a politician. Right. John, we appreciate your time. We've got to run, buddy. It's going to get interesting. We will keep an eye on what you have going on with the rank and file and this 12 weeks paid leave time. John Catanzara here on WLS AM 890.